live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Nick Saban is back in college football coaching.
Dude, I don't know how. Like, if you had to guess, we could have gotten like the most random headline. If we should have done that yesterday. What would be the most random headline that we could have come up with to come out?
That one wouldn't have even been remotely close on my radar.
Well, I would have said that would have been the perfect one to just jokingly throw out there. Oh, what if Nick Saban says he wants to get back into coaching? It sounds so fake, and we can talk about the legitimacy of it. But what are the chances that was what came out today? Out of all, there was a lot to cover that we got to get to today. That was the one thing that got the most attention.
Without a doubt, in case you don't know what we're talking about, meaning Joe and I, Greg McElroy, the former quarterback for Nick Saban, came out today and stated some comments in reference to a return for his former head coach and Nick Saban making a return to coaching. The flame did not go away after Lane Kiffin, the ultimate troll, said that his former boss is getting back into coaching. Here's what I'm going to throw out there to you. Greg McElroy, 3.5 months before Nick Saban retired, middle of the season, there's a video that's circulating on Twitter of him going on his podcast and stating the following. I'm hearing that this is Coach Saban's last ride. This is kind of a little bit after the Texas loss, the UCF situation, the year that they made the playoffs. He said in the podcast, I've heard that Saban has told a couple of people very close to him that he's making one final hard push, and this is it. Joe, 3.5 months later, he retired. Here's what I'd say about reporting, and this is what I'd say about a guy like Greg McElroy. It's hard for us to believe, right? Mm-hmm. Same time, the man called his shot, and he hit. So this is this man's former quarterback, and the way that Greg went about it does beg the question for me. Now, Nick Saban's going to easily roll out here at SEC Media Days tomorrow or Wednesday and says, Miss Terry said I ain't coaching no more. And then we'll see.
Right.
I think that there is some legitimacy here from Nick. I really do. Because of the fact that he's always going to, regardless of what we believe, of what happens, there's always going to be some random-ass AD who says, hey, I got to ask. And Joe, it's kind of like, I thought about this today a lot. Okay. It's like a fine girl in high school that you want to ask to prom. So what if she says no? You got to ask.
I don't know if I like that analogy, but I get what you're going
exactly
for.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you got to ask.
Like if you're in a position where you've got money to spend and you're a program like Arkansas that's got big chicken money, why not pick up the phone?
And money.
You already got one of the best college basketball coaches leading your college basketball program in the history of the sport. Why not give it a swing? Say, hey, Nick, we'll Pete Carroll this thing up. Just 2 years. We just need 2 years out of you so you can build a foundation and then you can go back to retiring. We'll give you a stupid amount of money to do this. We don't know what amount that they're willing to
$20 million a year for Arkansas to get a national title worth it.
Well, and I don't know how quickly it would take for Arkansas to win a national title, but for at least to put down the foundation to build a situation for a successor to take over. Yeah. I think that here's my whole bit with it, though. And I think that until this man is off the earth and he goes to heaven, I think that he's going to heaven. Maybe not.
Do you think that God's going to make Nick Saban go to hell?
Right. He's achieved so much. But I think that until he's like 100 years old, he's going to get phone calls inquiring about him taking jobs. Yeah. I think that these rumors will pop up every so often because I think Nick's going to consider it. I think Nick's going to tell people that he had offers. I think Nick is going to say that he's like, oh, yeah, I still kind of want to coach. I'm not sure. But he's going to ultimately stay retired because he's at this point, and we saw how tired he was at that final season, and he talked about the strain that it had on him. This isn't like the Urban Meyer type of a retirement where it was for kind of health reasons, and you could see that when he was doing broadcasting that he still had a little bit of a desire within him, and it wasn't for fumbling away the Jaguars situation as badly as he did, he might have
sticking his thumb in a bunghole.
He might have given it a third try at a different college program if he had embarrassed himself so much. And I think he realized he can't get himself in that boat anymore. But I think that we're always going to have to deal with this. I really find it hard to believe that Saban, after finishing on top the way that he did, is going to give another program a chance. And I also said this to you pre-show, I doubt that he goes back to Alabama. Like, I doubt that if he did this, it would be to return to the program that he was leading for as long as he did.
All right, we're kind of already in the segment. I guess we could just
kind of jumped into it. So we just keep.
Well, I mean, how do you not lead into that? I mean, how do I not lead into that?
It's been dominating everybody's mind the whole day.
It has been. So let's kind of get into this here a little bit. Here's a couple of things like I mentioned, and I want to touch on this. I don't know if Greg McElroy is the dude who goes out there for, I don't want to say clickbaity stuff. For something like this, I don't think that this is so delicate of a situation that I just don't know if he would just run it out there. Just to run it out there. He had to have been told, and I don't think it was Lane Kiffin. I think Lane saw the news, and Lane is ultimately trolling this news to get the buzz going. But there's two schools of thought that I think could be happening here. As much as I don't believe that Greg McElroy, his former quarterback, is the one out here saying, hey, man, I just been told by Joe, he lives there. I mean, he's his quarterback, man. Like, I mean, the connections that he's going to have around this situation are massive. I think two things are in play here for me. Either, number one, he legitimately has some soft sourcing on this, and it's just pushing it out there for SEC media days, or the SEC and all of Greg Sankey's wisdom always likes the SEC media days to have a massive stir.
Oh, this is a conspiracy theory. This is the conspiracy theory right here. Okay.
All right. You want to go through the last 4 years of SEC media days and head storylines that came out of it? Like, as an example, we're moving into a 12-team playoff 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. Texas and Oklahoma are coming into the draft. Or last year, speaking of Saban, we're bringing Saban on, and we're going to use him as a consultant. See, people forgot that the SEC did hire the man as a consultant. See, here's the thing that I think about with Greg Sankey more than anybody. We'll talk about Greg Sankey next. Greg Sankey's a master at storylining. A master. He is the master of saying so much verbiage without it meaning absolutely anything. Nothing. It meant what he did today, what he said today meant absolutely nothing. Nothing got accomplished today. But you get to a place where every time we get to SEC media days, there's a massive storyline that comes out. Massive. Joe, we could go through 4 years of this. AKA, when they did an abbreviated thing in 2020, when they didn't do SEC media days, what did he say in the allotted time that he had on SEC Network? We are going to have a season. We are going to have a season. I just feel like the last 5 times I've gone through this, every time that you and I over the last 3 years have done this, there's always something massive that is coming out of SEC media days on day one, and here we are again.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I think that I don't know if we have evidence to prove this.
There is none.
No, there isn't. It's an interesting take, though. I think that Greg Sankey is a master at commanding attention. I think he's a master of understanding of how to shift narratives in his favor. So, yeah, having the ability to just throw out something like this and to convince McElroy to do it, it's a very interesting angle. I won't completely deny that that's not something that's on the table. I do, though, ultimately believe that there can be validity to this, but it's not a super serious actual thing that will occur. And I think the one thing that you brought up is the relationship that McElroy has with Saban. Not only was he one of his former quarterbacks, he's also a coworker. They're both employed by ESPN. You don't think that they're not communicating? There's not there's some chance.
I don't think Greg
the relationship
McElroy
is soured and they don't talk to one another. Why would he do something like this if that was even the case?
Non-conspiracy theory. There's no way you can convince me that Greg McElroy in a reality-based situation runs out there without telling Nick what he's about to do. There's no way you can convince me of that.
Well, maybe even if he did that, there's no world that he would say something like this in a week where it would command everybody's attention, say at the Fine Bomb, and then to like double down on this without knowing that it would piss off Nick. He would have apologized by now. He would have absolutely apologized by now if Nick reached out to him and said, why the hell would you do this? If this wasn't at least a little bit of buzz of him at least thinking about it.
Did you see Paul Feinbaum's face, by the way?
Feinbaum the whole day was shitting on McElroy. It was very, very funny. It was very funny.
Paul did have a funny day. The interview with Lane Kiffin's probably the best. It always is. I don't lean on the conspiracy theory, but I also know that these networks, as Joe, we've been in this for a while now, you and I. These networks will come to you and demand you to say something that you either you're going to tell them, no, we're not doing, or yes, okay, I am a yes man. I will do X, Y, and Z. Now, Believe does not do that to us. I'm not trying to insinuate that they don't tell us anything to say. But I also, what I'm saying is I've heard horror stories of people being told what they can and can't say. So there also gets that point. Here's the truth in reference to Saban. I think he has the itch. I don't think he has the want to. I think there's a massive difference. If it was just coaching, I think he'd be right back in there. Joe, he's getting up there in age, man. And this is what I don't want for Saban. As much as I would love for him to coach my team again, which, by the way, he got inducted to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame last week. It was emotional for a lot of LSU people. For an example, he turned the ship around. They're tied with second with Ohio State national championship since 2000. They're at 3. So is Ohio State. Nick Saban's the only one that beat him in that. He's the one that turned that ship. So as much as I would want and love for him to always come back, you know what I don't want more than anything? I don't want a Joe Paterno situation in reference to I'm watching a man withered down on my TV screen. You know what else this played out to for us too? Right in front of our eyes, Lee Corso. I don't want that for him. I don't want that legacy to be his legacy. But here's the thing: if he's going to give you 4 years, I'm paying him $100 million in 4 years to get this shit done.
Well,
Joe, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. We love Brian Kelly. I love Brian Kelly. You love Marcus Freeman. Those are our two schools, respectively. Your school, and this is not a shot. This is just to show what a fan base would do. Would you pay him $100 million for your school who has been there but hasn't gotten over the hump since 1988? I mean, you would do anything for him.
Yes.
All right. Now, I pause here to say this. That's what LSU did in 2000 when they went and got him. Like, people will do what – I would do whatever it took. I would move heaven and earth to get that man as my head coach.
I think that a lot of fan bases – no, I think a lot of fan bases would say yes to that. And I think that a lot of athletic departments would say yes that are desperate and want to win a national title or at least – redefine the direction of where their programs are going in. So many programs would love for just a touch of what Nick Saban could do in a short period of time. And to reiterate here, his age is up there, but it's not astronomically like out of the question for him to return to coaching. Pete Carroll's 73, Bill Belichick's 73. Is
Saban 73?
Saban is also 73.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Saban's also 73. So while he is at the very end, and he's a lot, I'm sounding so bleak. He's a lot older than he once was when he was a young, energetic coach in his 50s and even into his 60s. You saw that lack of energy that he had in his final few years coaching. He's probably not going to bring that suddenly because he took a couple of years off. If you signed up for him for 3 years until he's 76 and he retired again, I think a lot of programs would say yes to that. The age isn't completely out of the question, but you do bring up like a great point. I 100% agree with you. I, as an appreciator of college football, do not want to watch Nick Saban coach into his mid-80s. I don't think that he's going to be able to do that effectively, nor do I think he's going to do that with a lot of
grace.
Focus.
A lot of grace.
I think a lot of people, if you get to that age, you're going to think that you're going to be able to keep chugging forward, but it ultimately is tougher. You just brought up the Lee Corso example. And I also don't want to see him go somewhere and his legacy gets spoiled, because say he does take somewhere over and they just suck. Like they're just above, like a little bit above 500, and he can't for the life of him outdo the difficult circumstance that he might have taken over, because there are some programs where we think that they can throw enough money at solving a problem, but they're still just a bad school for producing good football. And I don't know who that is off the top of my head, but it's certainly possible for him to take a. But if you hire Nick Saban, you're going to open every single checkbook to sign every other athlete that you can. Like they'd have every 5-star if they wanted to.
I mean, I guess
they're doing it in basketball right now.
They are doing it in basketball. It's a little bit crazy. Joe, don't they have six of the top 50 players in the country?
I don't know enough about college basketball recruiting to know that off the top of my head, but I do know that they brought in most, great portal haul, a lot of the big name basketball recruits. They could. The only like joking example I can think of is if he went to his alma mater and he coached at Kent State, but
I was thinking West Virginia,
that would be fun.
But the problem with that is they just hired a new head coach. I don't think that they're firing that early into this tenure. We'll see, man. At the ultimate thing of this, I just don't see Saban returning. But listen, I have massively enjoyed hearing his take every single Saturday. It's funny, Joe. 2 years ago, you and I came on here and like, bro, we don't watch College Game Day. We're not watching noon kickoff, whatever it is. We were making fun of them. Joe, it was must-watch TV with Pat McAfee and Nick Saban. Yeah. Must-watch.
Yes.
I mean, like
so much better.
It's so much better. And then when he's out there making fun of Kirby, when he's out there making fun of Lane, when he's out there getting after their ass, and then he's getting after Sark and Kirby in the SEC title matchup, and they're putting him in between the both of them, he's like, I know one thing, y'all ain't calling the defenses that I told you to call. And he's like, I've loved every single second of it. I hope he doesn't do it. I will agree with you on one thing, but here's the thing. It's hard for me. Like you talked about him go somewhere and his legacy get tarnished. It's very, 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 very hard for me. I don't think it could be touched. He would have to go 0-50, and I still don't think it could be touched.
Well, yeah, sorry. Let me clarify. I'm not saying that he could show up and it's like, oh, Nick Saban's trash. Like, look at what he did. Like, no one's going to be crazy enough to do that. But it's just like that lasting thought. That lasting thought where you're like, well, we know he's the greatest coach of all time, but you remember when he had that really bad brief stint where he just wasn't very good at the end? I'm trying to think of like a good example because there's not a lot of coaches that do the retire, unretire dance. Brett Favre comes to mind, but he still finished great with the Vikings, and then the last year after that was awful. But that's kind of a decent example. It was like the last year of the Vikings.
And that's a player.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll
know. See. I mean, listen, I somebody said this on Twitter. A Bama fan said this on Twitter. Now, I cannot confirm this. Let me say that before I get in there. Bama, okay. Do you know who Greg McElroy's alleged agent is?
Is it Sexton?
Allegedly.
Wait, he doesn't do media stuff though.
Apparently, if you ask Bama people, that there are
what does that mean?
I don't know.
I know this isn't you. This is someone on Twitter. That means nothing to me.
Apparently,
yes, Bama people.
Apparently, Sexton has done some things for former Bama players because Nick has asked. Now, I don't know if that's legit or not, but even if, I will say this, which made me think of it. I don't know if any of that's true. This does have Sexton's fingers all over it. It's got his fingers all over it. If you think about the retirement, if you think about Sark, if you think about Norvell, if you think about DeBoer, if you think about all the coaches that got massively paid, Kiffin, boy, this sounds familiar, doesn't it? A story believable enough that anybody would go out there and say, oh, well, you know what? It's Greg McElroy. This makes a lot of sense. This does feel like it's got some Sexton fingers all over it too.
Well, you're right. This is something that Sexton would do, where he would plant a seed in order to create an opportunity for one of his clients to build something off it. Here's another part of this. Is this all some big play in order for him to get a gigantic contract from ESPN?
Bingo.
Like that's the other part about this, that he could be planting the seed so that McElroy runs and reports it. Again, there has been no counterclaim from Nick Saban or a correction from McElroy. Nothing. The whole day. We went the whole day without anything. Is Saban supposed to show up at SEC meet? Like, when is the next time we're going to see him?
Today. He was supposed to have a sit down with Brian Kelly, allegedly.
When is he? Does anyone know when he's coming?
I don't know. Again, this has Sexton's fingers all over it. Again, Sexton calls Greg and says, listen, Paul's going to give you shit tomorrow, but you're going to run out here and say this, and we're going to do something for you on the back end.
It has to be ESPN related.
It's got to be. It's got to be. But when there's smoke, there's fire in some situations. But for me, the ultimate thing is we turn the page on this. Jimmy Sexton's a dog. And I want him representing Ruffino and Joe Show.
Oh, stop it.
50% of all of our future earnings.
Don't sell that away.
50%. No, if he going to move like this, Joe, 50% of $20 million is more than what we're making right now.
If we're worth $20 million, I ain't giving away half of it. The normal agent fee is 15%.
Joe, you're going online doing diets, eating ramen noodles. $10 million a year. You sit there and
diets, eating ramen noodles. We did the video coming tomorrow morning, by the way, the Gennings Dunker diet. That was fun.
God, this is so funny.
No, stop it. 50%. I'm not letting you negotiate it. I'm not letting you negotiate anything if that's your logic there, by the way.
As frugal as I am, do you really think I give him 50%?
No, I know.
Okay. But I would give him a little bit more than I probably would normally. All
yes.
Right.
Yep.
Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, do us a favor, rate, review, and subscribe. Joe, when we come back, Greg Sankey making some massive statements at SEC Media Days. We discuss that next. We're back. Joe, SEC Media Days are in full effect in the first day on this fine Monday as Greg Sankey took the podium, as he always does, to start off SEC Media Days. He had a lot of massive statements, some about the college football playoff, and also taking some shots at other conferences and commissioners. Joe, in reference to the playoff, in reference to the 8 or 9 game conference schedule for the SEC, your thoughts on some of the things that Greg Sankey had to say today at SEC Media Days?
Yeah, I'm incredibly nauseated by this nonsense statement that Sankey put out there. He talked about how he's in constant communication with all of the conference commissioners, trying to put out this image that he's the facilitator of the discussions that are happening with the college football playoff, which is fine. And I'm glad that he pointed out that he's talking like every single day with these guys. To Petiti, and also he brought up with Jim Phillips with the ACC. Yes. He referenced how he talked to him 3 out of the last 5 days of the week. But the statement that pissed me off is he just so snidely put in here, we have a 12-team playoff, 5 conference champions. That can stay if we can't agree. And he knows to the degree what he's talking about here, that the SEC and the Big Ten have controlling power of the decision-making. That is such a, well, if we can't get along, then we're just going to stick with the previous model. If we can't get to the same page here, we're just going to make it so that we don't make any progress. That pissed me off. I don't know if it pissed you off or not.
Why?
Because we're going through all of this. He clearly doesn't want a 12-team playoff. we're going through all these conversations of expanding to 16, and now all of a sudden he's trying to put his foot down and to play the whole we won't go anywhere because I say so. Or it's kind of like your dad saying I will turn this car around because I can type of a comment. I don't support it. I think that this is a total nonsense thing to have thrown in there.
See, it's interesting you brought that up. I didn't see it like that. The way that I understood his statements were he does not want to go to the AQ model, right? Because of the reason that he said, and just to paraphrase what you just brought up, we can do the 5 conference champions and then go from there and stay at 12. I think what he was really saying to me, and I could be wrong here, is that the debate going into SEC Media Days really had been in reference to the college football playoff was about the AQ model versus the 5+11 model. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but if there is one thing that I agree with him on, and let me tell you why I thought it was about the 5+11 model in reference to the college football playoff, because right after he brought up the 8 conference games, and then he talked about every year in the college football playoff of the teams being in the playoff from the SEC having the strongest strength of record. He turns around and says, and also the toughest strength of schedule. What I think that he was saying there was to Tony Batiti, because the third comment in that situation was him saying that I've met with Tony Batiti 4 out of the last 5 days last week. I think it's about them not seeing eye to eye on the AQ model versus the 5+11. Now, I'm just assuming that. I don't know exactly what he means there, and you could be right on that. Assuming that he means the 5+11 model, of all the things that he said today, it's the one thing I agree with him on. The one thing that I do agree on is that I don't agree with the AQ model. We've had this discussion before.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So if it is that specifically, I'm with him there. And listen, I had a 2.5 hour long show last week with my good buddy Carter Bryant, and we discussed going into SEC Media Days, 8 versus 9 conference games. Joe, we've pulled up Nebraska's schedule. We've pulled up some of these schedules when we've done deep dives. We've seen Shane Beamer run out there today and say, listen, we can go to 9 conference games. I got Clemson at the end of the year, and now you're telling me I'm supposed to be playing a Big Ten team in the beginning of the year. With all due respect, that's 10 conference games when some of you are just going to be playing 9. Now, if we're about equality and equal performances around the conference, basically I thought today was them making a statement to the Big Ten, we're not going to AQ model. We're not going to do it. And what we're not going to do either is we're not going to bow down because you think the AQ model gets more teams in for you when historically it would mean more teams for us. I feel like they're in a standoff. And I don't think that Greg Sankey, as much as I've criticized him in the past on this show a lot, Joe, why would he give up the 5+11 model if it benefits his conference more? I don't understand why people are on him with that. Now, for me, I wish it would be all at large for me. Yeah. But I don't get what I want. If we are going to do a model, and I understand guys like Josh Pate, who we respect very dearly, who doesn't agree with this model. He wants to be the 4 AQ mod, 444 AQ model, 44221, whatever it is model. Joe, you can't do that. If you want to cripple a sport, do AQs. Do that many automatic qualifiers. Because, Joe, then they want to do in playing games. They want to do all these different things. Okay, what happened last year? And listen, Shane Beamer said it best today. Hey, bud, what did it matter at the end when we beat Clemson? He goes, he says today at SEC Media Days, it meant nothing other than that's our biggest rival and we love beating them. Joe, it meant nothing. So you go out there and you do AQs, fine. But those games mean nothing at the end. Now, let me just say this before you go back into there. You could be right. I do think that there is a little bit of a stance here where he's saying, Nana boo-boo, you need my vote too. Now, two things can be true. But to me, I felt like the more pressing thing before the Big Ten goes next week is him saying, brother, if you want to do this, let's go play this shit. Because that's what he keeps saying over and over again.
So to add in here, I have come around and I agree with you that I think that the 5-11 model is best for the expanded 16-team playoff. I absolutely do. And I think that Beamer's comment talking about scheduling and the references that Sankey brought up to talking about the 9-team schedule, all those things, yeah, I tend to agree that the SEC has a much harder typical schedule in conference, albeit the Big Ten in particular tends to challenge themselves outside of conference more. They're not the same though. But I still look at what Sankey said, regardless of the model that is being referred to and me agreeing with the model that he wants to institute. I feel uncomfortable with the very casual reference of an abuse of power in this situation. And I know that you're maybe reading it a little bit differently. And I was reading Pat Forty had a column on this, and the way that he framed it, I really agreed with. It really felt like Sankey was saying, I'm just going to take my ball and go home. And that has been his approach since they have got the controlling power in the decision-making for what they're doing with the playoff. I don't like that. I really don't like that. This is supposed to be something that shapes the sport. And why is one guy being a dickhead and saying, if we can't agree, then we're just going to stick with 12?
Let me tell you why. Because, again, if they have controlling power and the Big Ten, and by the way, Brett Yermark, who we talked about last week, walking back his statements and now basically saying he wants to automatic qualifiers. Joe, why? Let me just ask, why in the good wide world would the SEC go to the AQ model? Why? Why?
It doesn't make sense for them.
It doesn't make sense for them. And to be honest with you, Joe, here's what you need to do then. Go out there and schedule SEC teams then. Go out there and schedule. Like, for example.
Wait. But you're saying, though, that the SEC won't schedule these opponents, though. So that you can't say that they should go out and schedule.
No. Shane Beamer said, if you move to 9 conference games in the SEC, and then I have to play Clemson, and then in the beginning of the season, you're telling me to play a Big Ten team, it's not equal inside the conference.
Okay,
I get what he's saying.
But separate from that, though, I mean, generally, you're supporting that the SEC should not add another conference game,
yes,
but should schedule the Big Ten opponent.
Let me tell you why. Who's Nebraska play out of conference?
I don't know, actually.
They don't. Go look.
Oh, wait.
It's Dookie Water State and Dookie Water Tech.
I think they play Cincinnati.
Oh,
Cincinnati is the team that they play.
Dookie Water Tech comes into town.
Houston Christian.
Okay. So you're talking about all this stuff with the SEC and the games that they're being played. Joe, Texas is going up to Ohio State. LSU's going out to Clemson. Alabama went to Wisconsin, and now Wisconsin comes back, and they got Florida State. So don't tell me that the SEC is not going out there and playing teams in the beginning. You're mad about a game at the end of the year. Well, Nebraska's got those games in the beginning of the year. What are you complaining about? I mean, Joe, Indiana didn't beat a team above 500, but won in Michigan. They didn't. And the SEC is supposed to, and Greg Sankey is supposed to come out here and say, wait a minute, man. Like, if you formulate strength of schedule and strength of record, it doesn't equal the same. Because, Joe, at the end of the day, it doesn't. I agree with him on one thing. The one thing that I agree with him on is when and you've said this to yourself too, when the Big Ten, some of the bigger teams do this, it's not the Ohio States of the world, it's not the Penn States or Oregons of the world, and quite honestly, some of them that are in the middle of the pack, it's not necessarily always them. I thought Lane said it the best today. Hey, we got top-heavy teams just like you have top-heavy teams. Please tell me when I'm going into Wake Forest, the only team that will schedule us, and then they cancel it the next season, and I'm sitting here, we're going out of conference. The Big Ten's going to have to show that some of these other teams at the bottom will go out there and play too.
Okay. Again, I don't disagree with you on the scheduling stuff. I feel like we're slightly kind of having two different conversations here at the same time. Do you think, though, him making that statement and that's like, if it was in the light that I'm reading into this, and I'm not the only person who read into it this way, do you think that this is a problem that he specifically is kind of
because
trying to
here's
throw
what's gonna
around the big
happen.
hammer?
No, you know why? Next Monday, Tony Petitti is going to run out there with that same hammer, and he's going to come down with it.
But Petitti's not like that. How many
literally?
quotes? Wait, how many times do we have videos of Petitti like delivering really impactful quotes?
Last week he went on a podcast saying that he's going to stand his ground on AQ models. Please go look at it on Twitter.
That's like the first time. Wait, what podcast was this?
I forget.
But
go look at it though.
But he doesn't do this stuff often. Like he's not like Sankey.
The last two statements that we have from Sankey that are public are SEC media days today and in Destin for spring meetings.
Yeah, but we all know that he has multiple mouthpieces that put out messages for him across the entire media landscape. Petitti doesn't have a single person who does that for him.
But Joe, he's got the same equal stick. They both have equal sticks here.
But he hasn't made a public statement that he is going.
Joe, they made a public statement in reference to wanting to do AQs.
I don't know. I think that this is a far more passive aggressive way of handling it compared to what Sankey is the only commissioner that would make a passive aggressive statement like this. And this is why I have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the model that he's trying to build. I have a problem with him just very kind of passively trying to point out, like, I'm the one who controls the decision making here. And it's not the ACC and the Big 12.
I don't read into that like that. I think he's defending his conference, which is his right to do.
He obviously has the right to do that.
But you have a fine line that you got to operate under. The fine line is how do I protect my conference and do exactly what they want to do versus what's not best for the conference.
But, okay, this is what the problem is, though, now, is that him and Petitti being given control of the decision-making for the college football playoff was not to do what was best solely for the SEC and the Big Ten. It was to make decisions that were the best for college football. They were given. I know that they're not. And that's why I'm saying that I have an issue with what is a clear statement of an abuse of power, that you're right. He is trying to defend his conference, but that is not what he is supposed to be doing. This is why ultimately we need an actual steward to represent college football.
I can make that same statement for Tony Petitti fighting for AQs. Regardless if he's out there with a mouthpiece.
But he's never said anything like this. He's never said anything like this before.
He's literally come out, yes, he has, and said that he wants the AQ model.
But he didn't say that he would shut down the expansion and he would revert it back to 12.
Hold on.
When has he ever said that? He's never said that.
No, but here's the problem with that. Why? We don't want more expansion anyway.
Forget what we want. The conferences want more expansion because it means more money. Sankey saying this says, you guys can't get along and agree and you guys won't do what I say, then I'm shutting this thing down and nobody gets more money. That is what my the read is on this.
Joe, I get what you're saying. I don't agree with the abuse of power when they've won 18 of the last 22 national titles.
Again, that doesn't have anything to do. That doesn't have anything to do
because it affects Joe. If you go to 16 teams, Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina are in the playoff. You cannot sit here and tell me that it doesn't affect them more than it does the Big Ten, because it does affect them more from a financial standpoint.
But playoff decision making isn't supposed to happen like that. We're supposed to come to an agreement that is ultimately best for everybody.
Okay,
like that's the whole point of this.
You're putting
the SEC isn't supposed to be handed all the power. That's my problem.
But you're giving
pointing out that he has it.
You're also putting him in a situation where, with all due respect to the ACC and Big 12, you're giving them spots that they do not deserve. Do they deserve? Let me again. To Shane Beamer's point today, did Clemson going 0-3 against the SEC deserve to be in there over the teams that they lost to?
No.
Okay.
They don't.
How do you fix that?
The at-large model is the way to fix that.
Okay. So then why in the world, when it affects his conference, when literally a year ago, with South Carolina, Bama, and Ole Miss, it literally affected them.
My problem is specifically with the delivery of the message. They can have behind closed doors their conversations about what each conference wants from this, and they can fight back and forth. They can fight publicly, which they've basically been doing. I am reiterating here. I have the problem that his statement is, if you guys don't go with what I want, if I don't get my way, we will stick with the 12-team model. That is what his statement is. That to me is what's the inappropriate part about this. I don't disagree with some of the things that you're saying here. Like, yes, the best model is the at-large model. The SEC would probably have the most teams in. Not disagreeing with any of that. Greg Sankey has a right to do what's best for the SEC, but he had the right to do what was best for the SEC when all 4 power conferences had equal say in this. But now he is tasked with representing college football as a whole.
In fairness, the last thing I'll say in this, Tony Petitti wasn't here when all chaos broke out. He wasn't. So the only real commissioner who was here outside of Jim Phillips was Greg Sankey. When COVID hit and all shit went to hell, he was the only leader who, when Kevin Smith and all of them canceled the Big Ten during COVID, they only had, 5 conference games? If I'm not mistaken, in the 2020 year?
It was something like that.
And Greg Sankey said, I'm not going with y'all. We're playing, whether you like it or not. And they played. From COVID on, from NIL to the portal, Joe, why don't they call Tony Petitti at Congress? He's not summoning himself into Congress. You don't summon yourself into Congress. They're not summoning Tony Petitti. It's not just him saying, if you're going to give me this, then I'm going to tell you what I think. He does not subpoena himself. He can't.
I understand that. And I think that he solely understands this. And this is why I keep coming back to it. I don't like him understanding that he has more power than everybody else and abusing it. He's making decisions for just the SEC, and he is not allowing for balanced decision making.
Okay.
That is where I have problems.
And I ask the question one last time.
Okay.
You can have that statement and it be true and it be fine. It also comes to the fact of, I would ask 2 questions to you. Is the Big Ten not doing the same thing in theory, wanting the AQ model? And then secondly, then how do we come to a solution?
They are fighting for their own version of the playoff that they want, but Tony Petitti is not threatening to shut down playoff expansion in a press conference, in a media availability.
What if he runs out there Monday and does the same thing?
Well, then we've created a shitstorm. I think he's created a shitstorm. And I don't know how to resolve this. I think that you resolve it with less toxic means. That is how I look into it.
Sometimes, look, I thought we were going to get into this too. This is what I'm really over him on. What I'm really over Sankey on is saying and talking about NIL and the portal and then never doing shit about it. If we're being honest, this was the first time that I actually feel like that he has put his foot down. Can you name a time that he has actually put his foot down other than today?
I don't know. My memory of Sankey's
I will tell you the only
actions.
other time that I remember off the top of my head is when he said we were playing during COVID.
I feel like there's more examples that we could come up with if we sat and combed through them, but
I'm sure. I mean, he was a big part of the expansion. If you remember, Kevin Smith left and they got what they wanted then.
Right.
So, look, I get what you're saying. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but it also comes to the fact that it's a fine line of when we got to, and I'm going to say this one last time, when we have to coddle to the ACC and you have a coach out there saying, hey, man, I had to go back literally today. Shane Bieber comes out there and says, I had to go back in the locker room and tell the guys the team that you just beat gets in a playoff over you, and you have the same record. By the way, Speaking of abuse of power, my wife holds the key to sex, and I understand abuse of power.
That is not how I thought this segment was going to end, and I don't have a follow-up statement.
But listen, you will be married one day, young grasshopper, and I'm telling you, you'll understand the real abuses of power.
I will not be married one day.
All right. Joe, another thing that happened in SEC Media Days today. Oh, God, I can't believe we got to get to this.
What we're doing the Vanderbilt thing first, right?
Diego Pavia came out today in multiple statements, the Vandy quarterback, along with his head coach and Clark Lea, stating the following was Clark Lea: "We will be playing meaningful games in the month of January." Pavia says he returns because he wants to not only win the SEC, and he thinks that they are going to win the SEC, that they're a national title contender. Joe, your thoughts on the Vandy quarterback?
This has gotten out of hand. Did you see the pictures today?
I did.
Our friend Chris Phillips posted a picture of him having one of the biggest media scrums ever for a player.
I did.
We've had some
Arch Manning level.
Well, I'm curious to see how big the one is going to be for Arch. There were way too many bodies excited to hear what Diego Pavia had to say. And the reason why they were is because they knew he was going to give them a quote. This man is cashing checks way before they've even stepped on the field. Like, he is declaring so much. One of my favorite things that I always hear from people that talk about achieving goals, and, as a motivated person, like, do you know what my goals are?
What are your goals?
I don't share them with anyone, because when you go around telling everybody what you want to accomplish and you don't accomplish them, you look like a fucking clown. You look like a dumbass when you go around making these statements. And I'm not trying to dig into Diego this bad, but why are they all of a sudden declaring all of these things? I missed last year when they had a chip on their shoulder and they were proving everybody wrong, and it was exciting and it was fun. And I thought that was the energy that they were going to have coming into this year. That's not what they're having. They're way in over their heads. Can we relax on the national championship talk? You went 7-6. How many 7-6 football teams do you know won national titles and won the SEC after that bad of a season? It doesn't happen. And if they do, it's because of their prolific program. They need to settle down.
Did it.
Again, a prolific program. Do you think Pavia and Clark Lea are the next coming to Nick Saban? Like, no.
No, I don't. I got to be honest with you. I'm over the Diego Pavia situation. Look, two things can be true at once. He could be a really good college quarterback, which a lot of people believe he's a really good college quarterback. But I don't think that he takes this game seriously. Not enough. Joe, can they get to 9 wins before we're talking about playing in the month of January for meaningful playoff games? I mean, like, listen, I do not agree. It is official list season, and everybody's coming out with their list of quarterbacks and tiering. Diego Pavia, for some, is in their top 5. Brother, I mean, what? Down the stretch, Diego Pavia in the month of November played worse than any quarterback in the SEC. It was horrendous. Joe, down the stretch in Texas when they lost by 3, he had 2 fumbles in critical situations. 2. I think what happened is that they upset Alabama. Of all teams that they could have upset, they upset the Death Star. They upset the biggest program in the last 2 decades. And when that happened in year 1 under the Kalen DeBoer, a different thing happened to Vandy. Whether we like it or not, when that happened, when that moment took place for Vanderbilt, Joe, a whole different other thing started happening at Vanderbilt. Whether we like it or not, there became excitement around Vanderbilt football. Yep. A team that 2 weeks before that lost to, what was it, Georgia State, if I'm not mistaken? Georgia State. Georgia State. And I'm supposed to sit here and say to myself, hey, it's not just him. Now, there is something I do like. I like that you're shooting for it. I don't mind you going.
That's fine. Yeah, that's all so fine to me. Continue before I
no, I mean, I'm sure we're going to. I love that Clark Lea is building something at a program that historically has not done anything. But, Joe, here's the problem I have with this. What if John Mateer in Oklahoma come out here and says something like that? What if Jackson Arnold and Auburn comes out here and says something like that? They both were 6-6 teams a year ago. So what would be the difference of teams that went 6-6 in the conference last year versus what Diego Pavia is saying? Because it's little old Vandy and everybody wants to go for the underdog?
I think I would share the same sentiment for those programs as well if both of those guys came out and they had statements like that. And I think that they're both smart enough to know that they're not going to make declarative statements like that. And you just said here, I don't mind shooting for high aspirations and wanting to out achieve everybody. Like that is the ultimate goal of the sport is you want to outperform everybody. But doing it in a public setting and doing all these interviews, I've seen Diego Pavia do so many interviews this offseason, more than anybody. Doing all these interviews, talking about everything, talking about how now you want to win a national title. It is turned into a separate monster is what this whole thing has become. Have these conversations. And he said, late on a Saturday night when they're putting in work and it's 2-3 in the morning and they were sitting and talking about this as their vision. That was his quote. And I don't mind that concept of like being up late on a Saturday and they were saying that they were out and they were doing work and they weren't like out partying, getting drunk or doing any of that stuff. They were just trying to get better. They were talking about like, man, these hours are going to help us win a national title. That's fine to me. Talk about in the weight room. Talk about it in the locker room. Don't do it in the media availability. LSU has the right to talk about this stuff because Brian Kelly has been to a national championship and his team has those expectations.
But they're not talking it like that. All they're saying
they weren't, but it was getting brought up. Yeah,
all they said today.
That was a lot of what they talked about. National championships, I think, was brought up in some of the quotes, but I don't remember off the top of my head. You would remember better than me. But it was not this declarative. But they have the right to, because if they don't get there, that is a failure for them this season. It's the same thing for Alabama. It's the same thing for Georgia and for Texas. Vanderbilt getting to a national championship would be an amazing upset and a fun story. But why are you declaring this out loud to everybody with a microphone in front of your face? Do it in the locker room. It comes off non-genuine. I don't mind talking shit, man. We do it on this show. But doing it to that degree, when you understand that all the odds are stacked against you, is nuts to me to not understand what you're putting on your shoulders and everybody is now facing against you.
It's not the only thing that he's done either. If he came out there today and said, we want to play for the SEC championship, we were in a lot of one-score games a year ago that we think that now we can overcome and win those games. So the fact of the matter is they were in a lot of one-score games. They lost to LSU by 7. They lost to Texas by 3. Some of those games, they're within a score. So relatively, I don't think that they're as far off as we're maybe making it out to seem. I actually believe that they're not as far as maybe people believe that Vanderbilt could be in reference to where they normally are. I have a problem with you also going out there and saying after this year, Vanderbilt will run the state of Tennessee. I have a problem with you going on with busting the boys, calling out media saying, who is this, who is that? I don't know any of you. I don't like that you talking about that we were up working hard at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. No, you weren't, because I have your Snapchat. No, you weren't. I got pictures of you in a club. I have pictures of you with your brother with a blacked out Escalade. No, you weren't. So you can come in here and say all of that, and it's fine and dandy. But Joe, I'm going to tell you something. When you start giving a lot of teams bulletin board material, aka Bama, and you got to go into that place, you got to go into Texas, you got LSU coming into town. Good luck. Good luck. Because you're getting to a situation where you're starting to piss. You're giving bulletin board material. You better have really gone after this in the offseason, but then at the same time, I got you in a blacked out Escalade in front of a club with chains on. And there's nothing wrong with that, but don't tell me that you've been out there working your ass off when your Snapchat is for the public to see.
That's not that part, but the part before that, the bulletin board material part is the biggest for me. For anyone who wants to hop in the comments and be like, why are you guys being such haters? It's not about us calling issue with this. We've been in a locker room before. This made me think of, when you said that, it made me think of Dan Lanning's pregame speech before they played Colorado.
Colorado, yeah.
And the intensity in that man's eyes when he said,
he
they're doing it for clicks. We're out here to win football games. All of that, all these clips the week leading up to the games when they play all of them, and especially Kalen DeBoer. You saw how motivated they were against Georgia. I'm so serious right now. If they only win like 5 football games this year and they get splattered by a couple of teams that they're going around talking all this crazy nonsense about how they were so close and they beat all these statements from
You're not
Pavia,
sneaking up on anybody anymore.
I'm telling you right now, and you probably can think of an example on your end. We all have, those who've played college ball, an example of an opponent where the whole week all you did is play clips of a team that you lost to the year before. And you and just like quotes that you find in articles or whatever it is. And like, they are against you. Remember all the cheap shit that they did to you last year. And that will be the most intense week of practice that team will see. And it will be the most intense opponent out of all the teams on their schedule that Vanderbilt will have to face.
Last thing, because we got to get to Kiffin really quickly. Last thing I'll say to this. When I was in college, the Facebook came out. It's what it was called, the Facebook. Texas State had a defensive lineman that was going under our quarterback girlfriend's photos and commenting on them.
Okay.
Texas State lost 56-3 at Southeastern.
My point. This is my point.
Exactly. And
by
the way, Texas State is in the Pac-12 now. Lastly, Lane Kiffin trolls Auburn and Hugh Freeze about the golfing incident. Because, of course, he did. Thoughts?
I'm not really buying into this like being like a really dramatic big issue. I actually genuinely think, and it's been talked about, that the SEC has a group chat. I think that Lane is just effing with all of them. Like, I think that that's all this is. I think that's all. I think he knows. I think that he knows that Hugh's not locked in, and that was based on all the comments that Lane had today. It came off as such.
But he came back in the comments when he was asked about it, saying, "Oh no, we've had this kind of commentary before." And Lane Kiffin comes back and says, "But he does have a really impressive handicap and golf score." By the way, speaking of golf, did you hear the Brian Kelly comments on golf today?
I did see that.
Would not remotely come close to acknowledging that he's teed off once. He goes, "I've had a busy June and July," which, to Brian Kelly's credit, if you talk to anybody on that staff, the truth of the matter is, no, he's not. He went on one vacation to the Grand Canyon with his wife, and they've been doing fundraisers in the state of Louisiana for breast cancer the last 4 weeks. I'm going to say this. It's going to come weird from me. Something's been a little bit different because he has played a lot of golf in the offseason besides this year. He ran from that comment, though. Shane Beamer.
Oh, don't answer anything about golf.
That's Shane Beamer says, I can't play golf. Like, they're running away from the golf. They're all
bullshit. He's got one. Wait. That article that highlighted which coaches were playing the most golf. Beamer was number 2.
I know.
Number 2.
I know.
Oh, bullshit, Beamer.
He ran from it. He ultimately ran from it. All of these coaches are laughing, which, by the way, brings me to my final topic of tonight. Okay. Lane Kiffin going out there saying that there's group text with SEC coaches. Do you think that Lane ain't in that text thread? just giving Hugh the business. Pause.
Yeah, he's probably doing that to everybody. They probably share their scores with one another in the chat.
Oh,
Like,
you
think
know
that
that they do. You know that they do. Anyway, fun day one of SEC Media Days. I wonder what else is going to bring. We'll see. We'll see y'all on Wednesday. Y'all have a good night. Peace.